I think that most trans people who claim to be transgender are not actually transgender.
Hi, everybody. Auntie speaks. Welcome back. Please subscribe. I just went over 500. Woohoo! I just started, I don't know, a couple months ago, 3 or 4 months ago or something like that. So it's super awesome. So if you'd like to help me out, please subscribe. So we are going to look at this lovely individual. And I do mean it. Sometimes I'm sarcastic when I say stuff like that, but we do mean it. This is Supervillain Salty. So please go subscribe to her. She is also brand new, but it sounds like she's been around the internet for quite some time. And I think she has a very, very important story that needs to get out there. It is a detransitioner story, but she doesn't make it funny. She just lays it all out there for everyone to see. And I think what she's saying is really important. So here we go. Supervillain Salty.
I think that most trans people who claim to be transgender are not actually transgender. Is that controversial enough? I hope so, but let me get into this. So there's basically a whole bunch of posts online and social media and TikToks about people who have detransitioned and regretted it afterwards, and it's getting more and more common. For context, I forgot to mention this earlier. I am a detransitioner, okay? That's why I feel like I am uniquely qualified to speak on this subject, hence the voice. I'm not a guy. I am a born female. I transitioned to become a man, and I was on hormones, on testosterone for like a year and a half, hence my lovely, lovely deep voice. And I detransitioned in like 2020, 2021, and here I am now. I've been detransitioned for like 2 years now.
Whew. So there, she comes right out. Most people who claim that they are trans are not really trans. You've heard of the trans trend, trans trender. I think a lot of kids are getting sucked into this. Now I'm going to bring in a different video that she describes how she did this transition, and we're going to look at that next because it will shock you.
I was having a lot of issues mentally with identity, with sexuality, and it was just kind of a bit of a clusterfuck here. And so naturally what we all do to self-diagnose is we Google it. We go to the internet and we look up our problems to see if anybody else has those problems and maybe figure out what our deal is. And that's what I did. And as soon as I Googled my issues, I kind of was surrounded by a bunch of stuff that basically said, you're trans, you're trans, you're trans. And I got it into my head that I was trans. But yes, I had convinced myself and kind of confused myself into thinking that the issues that I was having was gender dysphoria, which it was not. It was not actually gender dysphoria, but I had convinced myself that life would be better if I was a guy. Life would be easier, I would be happier. It just makes sense because I'm a tomboy and I do all this guy stuff, so naturally I should just be a guy, right? No. But I had convinced myself of that fact, and so I went to Planned Parenthood like the week later, and I basically walked in. I said, hi, I think I'm trans. They said, great, we're gonna diagnose you with gender dysphoria, and here's your prescription for testosterone. You can get it the very next day. And I said, great. I didn't actually realize in my head what a huge red flag this was.
I want that to sink in just a little bit. She was 18 when she did this. She walked into Planned Parenthood, told Planned Parenthood that she was gender dysphoric, and they put her on hormones. No one questioned her. No one pushed back. No one said, before we can give this to you, we need you to go see a therapist because we care about you and we want to make sure that this is the right decision. No one did that for her.
Speaking on today is a Reddit post that I found that I feel summarizes pretty perfectly a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, so I don't have to do as much work. It says, and I will put it on screen for you, I don't hate my femaleness anymore. Is that even a word? Oh well. Why am I trans? For context, I am a female to male to female because they are a female detransitioner person. I was diagnosed with gender dysphoria at age 15. There lies one of the issues, but let's move on. Got on testosterone the same year, another issue. After much consideration, I came to the realization that my dysphoria was the result of 3 major things. 1. I hated the role women and girls played in society. I wanted to be taken seriously like boys are. Similarly, I hated how boys treated me like an alien every time they talked to me. 2. I felt like I was too masculine to be a girl. I hated shaving my legs, wearing traditionally feminine clothing, and I couldn't relate to any of my female friends at the time. 3. I felt gross as a pubescent female and wanted to be strong and hot like the men I was attracted to. I wanted to be seen as something desirable, and I thought that if I was a masculine woman and wanted to date men, I never would be. So I'm gonna break this down and go through this here. Another reason why this is just so common, and the reason why I state the things that I state is because when I transitioned, incorrectly, mind you, these were some of the things that were on my mind when I transitioned. I like to call stuff like this artificial dysphoria, because all the things she's stating, she doesn't actually have body dysphoria. She doesn't feel like she's a woman or like a man in a woman's body. She doesn't have issues with her actual parts. Her brain is having issue with the ways that society has viewed her and the way that she's being treated as her role in a woman, or as a woman in today's society. And so her brain is telling her, oh, I don't like how I'm being viewed as a woman. I must not like being a woman. Men, to her and her point of view, have it so much easier, and they're the things that I look up to, so I must naturally, if I don't like being a woman, I want to transition to become a man.
What Supervillain is doing here is so important. I'm going to link at the end of this video another video that I did on this. The trans trenders that we see now are all female. All of them. And according to my analytics, most of the people who watch me are men. So you're not going to understand this, but women, when they're going through puberty, everything is gross and icky and painful. Everything. Everything that is happening to your body is gross and icky and painful, and usually embarrassing too. So women do not feel comfortable in puberty. And this trans trender stuff is handing them a quote unquote out. Let's find an out for all these icky, painful things. Another thing, when I was growing up, we were tomboys. And everybody was fine with it. Adults told you that you were a tomboy. Teachers told you that you were a tomboy. Other boys told you that you were a tomboy. And it was perfectly fine. It was perfectly fine to be a girl and be a tomboy. Hello, if I could raise my paw, I would be raising my paw. I said in another video that most of my classmates, I joke, or they joked with me, they didn't know I was a female until I think I wore a dress to prom. So that's the only time anybody ever figured out I was a female. So in my generation, it was very common. It was very common. And I think a lot of these trans trenders are just butch lesbians. In my generation, that was completely common. You were a butch lesbian. That didn't used to be a bad term. There was lipstick lesbians and there were butch lesbians. And a lesbian would talk to you about this. I had a neighbor and there were 2 ladies and they had to explain the whole thing to me. It was just that it was okay. There was nothing wrong with it. There was no need to change your body. So this is the danger. We are giving young girls an out of something that all women go through. And 85 to 95% of these girls, if we did not encourage them to transition, would grow out of it, just like Supervillain.
All of this dysphoria that people talk about, especially women who want to transition to become men, who state that they don't like the way that they're treated in society, they don't like the way that women are viewed, they don't like often the sexuality, or how sexually they are treated in society, how men view them, how they're often very sexualized, and they don't like that. And they get it into their head that because they don't like that, they think it's dysphoria. That is not dysphoria, okay? Dysphoria is something completely different. And so, the problem that I see, amongst other things with this, is that so many people, I see it on TikTok, I see it everywhere, so many people get into their head and then they transition, especially when they're young. This person was diagnosed with gender dysphoria when they were 15 and they got on testosterone at the same year. Your brain doesn't even develop on average until you're like 24 to 26. And doctors, actual doctors, are diagnosing people with gender dysphoria and handing out HRT, hormone therapy, like candy, and basically destroying these people's bodies when they're not trans. Did this person ever go to a therapist? Why was this doctor? She just basically went to a doctor, said, I think I'm trans, and then they gave them hormones that will permanently alter their entire, like, their body in ways that they can't ever take back. People are so obsessed with being pro-LGBT that they end up going too far into the spectrum and they end up hurting people. It's not good.
Okay, guys. So what she is highlighting here is super, super important. The transgender craze is hitting young girls, just like I said. But this last little bit, I think she's really hit the nail on the head. We are so concerned as a society today being viewed as anti-LGBT that anything goes. Anything goes. And I am about as anti-T as you can get. Some of my favorite commentators are Blair White, the offensive tranny, and Buck Angel. So I am not anti-T. But we do have to protect children, okay? And we are going way too far here, okay? Way too far. Look, new rule, if you can't get a tattoo, you can't transition. And it's usually illegal to get a tattoo under 18 across this country. But it's getting even worse, guys. Okay, here's Libs at TikTok. California school district reportedly facilitating gender transition on children without parental knowledge. And we are not talking about social transition. We are talking about testosterone and estrogen and surgery. So here we go. Documents obtained through a recent FOIA request revealed that California school districts partnered with healthcare facilities to provide children with gender transition hormones and surgeries without parental consent. Okay? All right? So, full videos are down below for Supervillain. Please click on them. Subscribe to her. She needs to go viral. We love you, Supervillain. Keep up what you're doing. Guys, if you like my content, please share it. Please subscribe. It helps me out quite a bit. We will see you on the next one.